Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Have you ever been reading through an ancient text and suddenly you notice a detail that just feels, well, completely out of place? Kind of like a puzzle piece that just doesn't quite fit the rest of the picture? Well, today we are looking at a really fascinating visual anomaly right in the book of Revelation. We're going to try and actually unlock a secret that's been hiding right there on the page in plain sight. Let's dive in and see if we can view this ancient text in a completely new light together. So, here is the absolute core mystery that we're tackling today. We get introduced to these two terrifying creatures, a massive dragon and this beast rising right out of the sea. Now, both of them have exactly 7 heads and 10 horns. But look closely at the crowns. The dragon has 7, but the beast has 10. Why is that? And maybe more importantly, why are they sitting on completely different body parts? I promise you, these exact numbers and anatomical locations aren't just some random coincidence. So let's figure out exactly what they mean.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Section 1, Unmasking the Dragon.
If we look at Revelation chapter 12, verse 3, it describes, quote, a great red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on its heads, unquote. Now, I really want you to notice the very end of that sentence. The crowns are placed specifically on the heads. Right? Okay, let's go ahead and lock that visual in our minds, because that specific detail is literally the key to unlocking the first half of our entire puzzle.
But before we can even start to decode those crowns, we have to ask who exactly is wearing them. Well, thankfully, the text doesn't actually leave us guessing here. Just a few verses later, over in Revelation 12:9, the true identity of this dragon is explicitly revealed as Satan himself. So boom, our first symbol is officially locked in. We are dealing with the ultimate spiritual enemy.
All right. That brings us to our first absolutely crucial number, 7. Now, if you know a bit about apocalyptic literature, you know that 7 usually signifies divine completeness or perfection. But what's really interesting here is that in this specific vision, this number is also pointing us straight toward a very tangible, gritty historical reality.
You see, according to some later clues we get in the text, specifically over in Revelation 17 verses 9 and 10, those 7 heads actually represent 7 kings. So by placing those 7 crowns squarely on the heads, this imagery is communicating a mainline succession of power. I want you to think of it kind of like a direct sequence of Roman kings or emperors. A crown on a single head represents one singular ruler holding all the power at one specific time. One falls, right? Then the next one rises. It's this continuous chronological line of authority that Satan was essentially using as his earthly tools.
Moving right along to Section 2, the beast emerges.
Okay, now check out Revelation chapter 13, verse 1. It says, quote, a beast coming out of the sea with 10 crowns on its horns, unquote. Did you catch that? Did you notice the absolutely crucial shift happening right there? The crowns have literally moved completely off the heads. So, let's figure out exactly why that happened.
Just like we did with the dragon a second ago, we really need to clearly define what this beast actually is. So while the dragon is this massive spiritual entity, Satan, the beast, represents the incredibly physical, political entity that the dragon actually gave his power to. And in this context, we're talking about the 1st century Roman Empire. I mean, this was the dominant, completely overwhelming geopolitical force of the entire era.
And hey, that brings us right to our second big number, 10. Not only have these crowns physically moved locations, but the beast apparently needed 3 extra ones. Visually and purely numerically, we are looking at a massive, undeniable contrast from the dragon we saw earlier.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the side-by-side comparison. Look at side A. The dragon had its crowns firmly on its heads, which, as we said, was a singular succession of kings, one after the other. But side B, the beast, has its crowns resting on its horns. And since horns represent pure strength, military might, and regional kingship in ancient symbolism, this points to a really dramatic shift in how this power is actually operating. We're moving away from that single chronological line of emperors and stepping into the cooperative shared power of 10 subordinate kings who are all collaborating simultaneously with the beast. Basically, it's this massive unified shared network of earthly power. Talk about a game changer.
So what does this all mean? Let's jump into Section 3, the historical master plan. You see, all of this super detailed imagery, it wasn't just meant to be some fun academic puzzle for us to sit around and debate centuries later. No way. It was an incredibly profound, genuinely urgent message designed to offer real, tangible hope. The early Christians who were reading this originally, they were facing intense, absolutely brutal persecution under the Roman Empire. By exposing the exact, literal structure of this power, by pulling back the curtain to show exactly how the spiritual dragon was manipulating the political beast and all its allied kings. The text gave those believers total clarity. It was proof that God saw exactly what was happening to them. Their enemy was known, it was quantified, and most importantly, it was completely limited.
Which brings us to Section 4, 5 lessons for today.
Okay, so here's exactly how this applies to us right now, today. Number 1, Satan still prefers working through everyday earthly systems and massive cultural institutions. That hasn't changed. Number 2, and please don't miss this one, Christ is completely supreme. In fact, Revelation 17:14 specifically promises that the Lamb completely overcomes these powers. Number 3, your persecution, whatever you're going through, has a strict time limit. It is definitely not eternal. Number 4, God is entirely 100% in control of the timeline. Think about it. If he knows the exact number of crowns and exactly whose head or horn they sit on, he literally holds history itself in his hands. And number 5, because of all of that, we get to operate from a place of absolute victory. And honestly, this just brilliantly illustrates the ultimate takeaway of our entire deep dive today. The Lamb has already won. Look, even though we might face completely new forms of beasts today, corrupt systems, heavy cultural pressures, or even deeply personal battles, Christ's ultimate final victory over the dragon is already a completely secured reality. It's a done deal.
Well, that brings us to the end of our explainer. We've successfully decoded these ancient crowns, but let's be real. The spiritual reality behind them is absolutely still active all around us today. So I want to leave you with this thought. What specific methods or systems do you think Satan is using in our lives today? Like, what do those 10 subordinate kings actually look like in our modern world? I'd love for you to take a moment, really reflect on what we've just unpacked together, and drop your thoughts down in the comments. I can't wait to read them. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you next time.